The testimony of the exile might be as such: I have fought a good fight. I almost finished a race. I didn't exactly keep the faith. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day 4 of the Torah portion, Vayeshev. This is the phrase meaning, and he dwelt. Well, the dwelling of Joseph is about to change. In Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 39, in verse 1, it says, And Joseph had been taken down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, a Mitzrite, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. Unlike Abraham going down by choice to Mitzrayim during a time of famine, unlike Yitzhak needing to go down to Gerar, the land of the Philistines, during a time of famine, unlike Yaakov, who had to flee his place there with family in Beersheba and go to Uncle Lavan, these men did their going by choice, at least in much of their deciding. Here it says Joseph was taken down. He went down against his will. This speaks of exile. Exile is the place that we find ourselves that actually doesn't belong to us. It belongs to someone else. And the question then will become, are we going to remain an exile that is resistant to exile society, or are we going to become a captive? We're there, we might as well just make the best of it, and we'll have to just yield and become a part of what we are in the midst of. There is the introduction then of a unnamed but very significant character in this chapter. It says here that in verse 6 that Potiphar left in Joseph's hand all that he had, and he did not know what he had except for the bread he ate. And Joseph was handsome in form and handsome in appearance. And after these events, it came to be that his master's wife, that is Potiphar's wife, lifted up her eyes to Joseph and said, Lie with me. As the narrative continues, it says she pressured him day after day after day, and he did not listen to her, to lie with her, or to be with her. Potiphar's wife evidently was a beautiful woman. She evidently had some seductive allure about her. One would easily imagine so. She's someone of authority. Whatever Potiphar's authority was, she seems to share in it. They are in Mitzrayim, which is by definition, Mitzrayim or Egypt means confinement or pressure, exerted pressure upon us. Potiphar's wife then, she represents the allure, the sensuality, the pleasures that are offered to us in exile society. Let's just be honest. Here in America, whatever we want, it's available anywhere and everywhere we want to find it. Always with a price. So she is unnamed to us. Only her legal standing is identifying her. She is, as Joseph says, no one's greater in this house. This is verse 9. It's not withheld whatever from me, but you. You are forbidden to me. It's not that she wasn't pretty. It's not that she wasn't desirable in some respect. It's the fact you belong to Potiphar. He's my master. He says, you are not allowed to me. That's all that has to be said. She represents forbidden fruit. She is the fruit on the tree in the garden that says to us, I can make you better. I can give you what is appealing to your eyes. She is the knowledge that is forbidden to us, the knowledge of how other nations worship their gods. Yah says, don't even investigate that. She is stones that we are tempted to make into bread. Miracles for miracles' sake. Miracles to make us feel better. Prayers answered just so we can feel better about something. She is the miraculous stepping down from the temple pinnacle so the crowds would applaud us. This is using ministry gifts for the acclaim of others. She represents the fallen things or the desirable things that fallen nature in us wants, and seeks to convince us that it's a worthy yielding. She is those things, those people that we might say, well, no one can really blame me. It's almost impossible to resist. It's the things that we think we can justify, but actually we can't. Because when we try to justify them, it falls on very hollow sounding ears. Her words to Joseph were consistently the same in two words in Hebrew: Shekeva emeh, lie with me. Lay down beside me and enter into lies, deceptions with me. Joseph preached her a 38-word sermon, at least in our translation. Joseph says to her all that is under his authority. He says, I'm over the house, I'm over the fields. Everything that the master has is mine except for the bread he eats and you. And then he says, Potiphar is the one who's chosen to elevate me. I recognize who has benefited me. He understands that Potiphar is a human key to his status, and that's a will that he will not violate. But then he also recognizes that there's someone else involved, and that is Elohim. He says, what you're asking me to do is evil, and I will not transgress the will of Elohim. And she pressures and pressures and pressures until it says, Rashi says, a certain day means a particular feast day where frivolity and free license to do whatever you want is available. Legally, no one could blame him. And she called him, she grabbed him, she seized him, she had him. And this is where he said, you know what? I fought the good fight. I have resisted up to now, and no one could really blame me. I have run a good race to this point, but I'm tired of running. And I've tried to walk upright, but man, a man can only take so much. Maybe he could, go to Potiphar and say, I'm sorry, but, this is what's happened. I beg your forgiveness. He left his garment in her hand and his integrity and his fidelity in his heart. You can have the outside of what's trying to cover me. You can have the garment of my slavery, but you can't have me. There has to be a constant attitude, a vigilant attitude about us, where we say, I cannot yield. I recognize that where I'm at and what I'm doing and who I am, it is by the hand of Yahweh first, but I also recognize that there are human agents that are involved. It's more than just, I don't want to go through the mud slinging of defilement of a personal reputation. It's about the honor and the integrity of our King. Always be aware of who and to whom you belong, and say no to Potiphar's wife. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, shalom.